Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Good to see everybody. This is the Clout Report, the regroup. Welcome. How was everybody? Everybody good? Got a lot to get through. We're gonna talk about it. Everybody keeping up with this trial or what? You know what's going on in music? You know what's happening? All right. Don't worry. We're gonna get caught up. Okay. So this is the top story right here. So we'll get started here.
Money to Zip Martin to give to Mr. Davis for payment of the Tupac murder. We go to Mr. Davis. He says he can rekindle that relationship with Mr. Zip and get him to talk about the money that was given from Sean Puffy Combs to Mr. Martin that never got to Mr. Davis. This is a lot deeper than that. Sean Puffy Combs was supposed to have given money to Zip Martin to give to Mr. Davis for payment of the Tupac murder. We go to Mr. Davis. He says he can rekindle that relationship with Mr. Zip and get him to talk about the money that was given from Sean Puffy Combs to Mr. Martin that never got to Mr. Davis.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a recap from yesterday, and that's the detective that opened the door about some alleged payment or some. So apparently the payment never arrived, but there was supposedly $1 million on the table for Tupac and Suge Knight to be unalived. So that was an added bonus to whatever happened at the MGM as it pertains to like Baby Lane getting beat up by Tupac and others. So the detective that was working on, so this detective got involved because of the Biggie Smalls, Chris Wallace unaliving. He's an LA detective. He dealt with homicide and gang related issues. So yesterday a jury in Las Vegas put on headphones and listened to Listen to a man describe how the gun got in the car. Do we know how the gun got in the car? I mean, we have an idea, right? And then that same recording, they heard him say the name Sean Puffy Combs. And we know who that is. We know where he's a little tied up right now, right? So Keffe D claims on a 2008 police tape played in open court that Diddy offered him $1 million to have Tupac unalived. And before we go too far, I need you to hear the next part, as it clearly came from Keffe D. Hang on one second. Okay. All right. Here.
I don't really owe me, but god damn, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Brother love, come show some love. That's all I can fucking say. Show some love, brother love. You know, shit. Brother, I be seeing you doing your little pretty dance and all that, man. Show some love, homie. Come on, man. Don't be like that, brother love.
Man, so you like Puffy owes you then?
I don't really owe me, but god damn, what the fuck?
Wasn't expecting. Keffe D just called out the prosecutors, alleging that they are endangering his family. Before court went on lunch break, Keffe D stands up and tells the judge that the prosecutors keep leaking his family's address and all of their houses are getting vandalized by people. He's explaining how wrong all of this is because this stuff keeps happening because of them. And then he went on to say that he had got beaten up and then that they're prosecuting him. He is just not happy.
They keep giving out my address. They broke in my house, vandalized my house, vandalized my white car. You know what I'm saying? Because they keep giving out our address. Now they gave out my sister's address. This stuff is wrong.
I've heard it's going on both ways, that there's concerns both ways.
They're wrong.
I've admonished them to talk to their witnesses and anyone they can communicate about these issues, okay? So your attorney let me know what's going on.
I get beat up by the cops. The guy attacked me in here, sent me to prison. This is just wrong, and it's supposed to be this guy.
For the record, you're pointing to the judge.
Yeah, for the record, I think he's indicating he's upset I'm prosecuting him for murder.
No, I'm not upset because you're endangering my family's life.
Before that happened in court, we were hearing about Keffe D's interview with a Las Vegas detective after he did the proffer agreement with Greg Kading. In this interview, it's like Keffe D totally takes himself out of the situation and things that could charge him like he is right now for Tupac's unaliving. He doesn't talk about Diddy or the $1 million alleged hit that he claimed in the proffer. He tried to say that Zip gave Orlando the gun at first until one of the officers from the proffer agreement told him, you can't just be like changing the story. And we hear a conversation between Keffe D and his lawyer where his lawyer is telling Keffe D, you can stay consistent, but also say, you know, I think this happened, to try to basically not have any culpability in any of this. And then after he changed that testimony to, I was the one that got the gun from Zip, he then tried to change his testimony from the proffer again, saying at that point is when he gave the gun to the people in the white Cadillac, but he didn't know who. Basically, Keffe D was making it seem like he didn't hand the gun back like he said in the after he saw Tupac and them going down the street. He tried to leave out the whole entire story about to 662 and waiting there for a while in that white Cadillac with Orlando, T. Brown, and Drew. Till it ended up coming up later, then he had to fill that in that yes, that did happen. All of the little that he was giving Vegas in this interview was literally like trying to take himself out of it. And it was clear from his with his attorney that they didn't want Keffe D to say anything to basically incriminate himself. And honestly, in my opinion, I feel like Keffe D was nervous because it was Vegas at that point in time. I don't know. It was pretty crazy, but y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments. Well, that was something.
All right. So y'all seen that. Y'all heard that. So she covered kind of a lot of what we're talking about. So I just let her go ahead and cook. But anyway, so he told the police about this connection between he and Diddy. And apparently he got a pistol from the guy that Diddy had paid to have this unalive and done. And so and that's the claim, right? So he told LAPD that's what happened. And what do you all think on that? Before I go any further, what do you all think on that? I have my concerns. I have some doubts. I have just I have some doubt. I have some doubts on this. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate to be the guy. I hate to be the contrarian. If he's paid to do a job, or even if he thinks he will be paid to do a job, right? Why is he not driving the car if he believes that? Just a question. Chime in on, make it make sense. If he's not driving the car, he's not the trigger man. How is it automatically assumed that he's the coordinator of this? How is he necessarily the coordinator when the one who actually pulls the trigger is the person who just coincidentally got beat up an hour or two prior to doing that? How does that make him the coordinator? He may be an accessory to what happened. I see how he, if he was he provided the weapon, okay. But if he's not driving, how is he control over what they're doing? He didn't drive, he didn't shoot. So he had this plan that involved driving along the strip, hoping that you find somebody. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know. What do you all think? Does that make sense? I know that's a story that they want us to believe. I believe that's what happened, but I don't think that makes you a mastermind either. Just because it went that way, and you were the only one alive to tell the story after the fact. I mean, could he have maybe embellished in his own favor? Possibly, if he's the only one and no one else is around to challenge him. No one. Oh, I was really the one who did yada yada yada. Okay, that's a possibility. Anyway, back to Diddy. Diddy denied any involvement for the, of course, right? He's not going to say, yeah, I paid somebody who he actually didn't pay, because supposedly the money never got to Keffe D. That's why he's still kind of feeling some type of way about it, because he was supposed to get some money, never got it. And maybe it was one of those things where they give you a little something up front and then they give you the rest on the back end. I don't know. But if that was the arrangement, then that would make sense, right? Anyway, so week one ended in this trial, and 300 miles away, they're picking up Lil Durk's jury right now. So we got two trials, one Friday. I'm J Cal. This is the Clout Report, and we doing what we do. So 30 seconds, chat. Let's go. This like button. You know, type where you from at least. Please, y'all. Come on now. This is interactive. All right. The man who last took the picture of Tupac alive testified earlier today. You know, so we're gonna talk about that too. Anyway, so December 2008, in a lawyer's office in LA County, facing federal drug charges that could have buried him for life just for that. It's a proffer agreement. He's been told what he says. He's been told what he says can't be used against him. So he talked for hours and heard most of that yesterday. So apparently he provided the weapon to Orlando Anderson, his nephew, who was in the back seat. Everyone believes who actually fired the shots. A detective asked whether Orlando shot across DeAndre Smith. Davis describes Anderson leaning over the window, coming down. Okay. And on that same tape, the $1 million claim about Combs, you know, came out. Okay, so Devontae Lee testified that South Side Crips were associated with Bad Boy, Rival, Mob Pyru, Death Row, Suge, and Pac. So just to reiterate, there's no murder weapon in evidence. There's no getaway car. I mean, well, they know the Cadillac. We know the white Cadillac, so there is a getaway car. They just don't have it. There's no footage showing what happened. This case is all Keffe D's testimony. So he's the defendant and the star witness working against himself. He walked into a room he thought was safe and narrated the unaliving of Tupac. So that's still where we are with that. So a man facing life in a room where he's been told nothing counts and every reason to make himself sound important. Bragging is not evidence. The biggest name on the tape is the one you should have been careful with. That's what the detectives believe. But 50 Cent, in other news, because it's also with Diddy, he has a lawsuit. There's lawsuit news that he's coming after 50 about the documentary that was not approved, and somehow he got these tapes, these footage clips that Diddy does not appreciate. So anyway, he's suing 50 Cent. So 50 Cent shrugs off the the Diddy Reckoning lawsuit this week. Diddy's story in 1 week. One is on a 2008 murder tape, and one is a 2026 lawsuit. This man hasn't had a quiet year since 2023. That's a long time. Does anybody believe one way or the other about this tape, about these allegations? One word, yes or no? If a man says something to save his life, does that make it a lie, or does it just make it convenient? Because those are two different things, and this whole trial lives in the gaps between, right? So you know, if he said something to save his life then, he wouldn't say something to save his life now. I mean, seems pretty comparable situations. But so week 1 wrapped up today. The prosecution called Leonard Jefferson. Now, he's a man who took that last photo of Tupac alive in the passenger seat of the BMW that we were talking about. Anyway, so he was in town for the Tyson Seldon fight. Never didn't actually get to go, according to him. So he alleges that he sold his ticket in the lobby, used it to he apparently used to sell cars to people connected to Death Row, and that's how he met Pac in LA and saw Tupac's entourage on the strip in the hotel while people watched, and stopped at the light on Las Vegas Boulevard going to get food. Pac and Suge in the car next to him, you know, so he took a picture. Then I guess shortly after the shooting, so officers draw guns on him, order him out of his car. He watches police pull Tupac out. You know, he's released, goes back to his hotel, and then officers track him down and say, "Come back." Up. He developed the film later and sees what he has. So he didn't know what he had. He drove home and went on with his life, dropped a roll of film like you know, anybody else would have in 1996. And weeks later, he's holding the last image of Tupac alive. That's crazy. And that photo at this point has been everywhere for like 30 years, on walls, on t-shirts, documentaries. And today the man who took it sat in the courtroom and had to answer whether he faked it. You know, so he was asked directly whether he staged the scene, and on cross the defense noted the picture had been used in a book, you know. So that's what 30 years does. Everything gets doubted. The photo becomes a conspiracy. The witnesses become a suspect. Nobody in the story gets to just be a guy who took a picture at a red light. Have anyone seen the picture before with Tupac in the passenger seat of the BMW? Yes or no? When does keeping questions alive stop being about justice and start being like just about a story? Anybody? Well, you know, I think that's the problem with this trial being so old. You know, when a trial is so old, everything is different. Not necessarily one way or the other. You know, it's still whoever did it still did it. Whoever didn't do it still didn't do it. I mean, you know, credible witnesses will still be credible. I suppose, you know, maybe someone's memory may not be as good as someone else. So I mean, there can and I'm sure will be some differences in an old case, some cold case, versus something that just happened, just investigated. Everybody's still here. Nobody's missing. Nobody, you know, passed away from natural causes already. You know, nobody can say they have dementia all of a sudden. You know, all these things aren't happening yet, right? So that's the benefit of a new case. But, you know, what do? You know, you know, I don't like this case. I don't know what it's supposed to prove, honestly, personally. I don't know. I don't think this deters any behavior moving forward. You know, like I said before, most of the family's not here, or I won't say most of his family. I don't think he had a whole lot of family, but his mother, and I think maybe he had a sibling or something. I don't think they're here. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, it's hard for anybody to really get justice, 30 years later. If they'd have got justice then, maybe this is when people would be getting out. I think, I heard somebody say yesterday or day before that, for Tupac and Orlando, those were two people that incarceration probably would have saved. And I thought that was an interesting take because, maybe they both would have been better off locked away for a little while until they can kind of figure out what all this is about. What's really going on? What should they be focusing on? What should their priorities be? But anyway, I digress. So in Lil Durk's case, jury selections began Thursday before Judge Michael W. Fitzgerald. Roughly 80 prospective jurors downtown LA. Nobody was seated Thursday. Today started at 8:30. If selection finished on schedule anyway. The court expected to seat the jury and begin opening statements after lunch around 2 p.m. If opening statements happened on time, which probably didn't. But anyway, we'll keep everybody posted once we get that. Anyway, Lil Durk Banks, 33 years old, pled not guilty. Government alleges he ordered and financed a hit on Quando Rondo in retaliation for King Von's 2020 unaliving. Associates allegedly flew Chicago to LA, botched ambush at a gas station near the Beverly Center, and at least 18 shots. Rondo survived. His cousin, however, Nevaeh Lil Pab Robinson, was unalived. Top counts carry mandatory life sentence. Prosecution is expecting 11 to 13 days to begin. All right. Separate. Chicago racketeering case was severed in July. Still no date, however. The evidence. Judge is allowing Piss Me Off song, lyrics, and video, plus Back Again and Still Running. Phone records, travel records, photo surveillance, YouTube interviews, cooperating witnesses. Judge is allowing everything for this trial. So they're getting to use it all. They're not just playing his music, they're playing his interviews, podcast circuit, blog circuit, streams. All of it is discovery now. Everything you say into a camera in this culture is deposition that you didn't know about, that you were apparently given. So no speculation on guilt. We'll stay neutral until we get more information. Should lyrics be allowed as evidence? Yes or no? Anybody got to take one way or the other on that? Every one of us in this chat has a camera. If a prosecutor pulled everything you said online in your worst week of your life and read it to 12 strangers, how would you look? Just a question. You can keep the answer to yourself. Don't put that in the chat. All right. So rapper Game dropped documentary 3. Apparently he addresses Kendrick multiple times, plus Drake collab. All right. So DJ Academics premiered it. Okay. So 3 albums, 23 years. Still trying to get a call back. Respect the persistence. But at some point, the silence is the answer. The Game made Adrian Broner apologized to Brandy and her mother over a live stream with Ray J. Academic says Drake's house got swatted this week while discussing his own swatting. Drake rented a castle in Toronto for a date with Peak Chewy, the winner of his 20v1 event. Said he'd buy her mother a house. So I guess process. Stack release date today. We got Rhapsody. God got an afro. Ken Carson's cartoons. Denzel Curry. Georgia Smith. P3. 10th anniversary edition. What are you playing first tonight? Anybody? Drop it in the comments. The game's been chasing this response for 2 years. At what point does calling somebody out stop being competition and starts being a cry for relevance? Great question. Great question. So true. I think some people need that validation. Usually that's not like a male thing to chase validation. Usually we chase other things instead of validation. But some people, they need that to feel relevant. They need to be validated by others. And if they don't get that, there's a problem. So I'm a fan of Game's work. I think he makes some good albums. I don't understand his life outside the booth. I like his music. I don't get his life, like the way he goes about things, the trouble he's gotten into over the years. I just don't get it. I think somebody so talented should probably focus more on that talent. Especially if you get into so much trouble outside of work more so you can stay out of trouble. Keep putting money in your pockets, keep working. If taking a day off puts you at risk for losing it all, don't take no days off. You can't afford it. I mean, that's how I would look at it. If me taking a day off puts me at risk for losing it all, then damn it, no days off for me. It's 7 days. We seven until we out. We 7 days a week until we out. If that's what it takes for me to stay out of trouble and stay being productive, then damn it, that is the restrictions that I would put on myself. And that would be that. Blueface. Oh man, I love me some Blueface too. He doesn't really get in as much trouble. He's gotten in some trouble too, but he's found a way to leverage the drama into a check, which I can't knock that. I can't knock that at all. So that's the difference. That's the difference between Game. That's the difference between Blueface. Blueface has found a way to monetize the drama, monetize the BS, and so he's winning. So Blueface's son reportedly asked whether his dad is back in jail after not seeing him for about a month. Blueface's own mother is calling him out publicly, I guess, for staying. He's probably just been with Chrisean and they are streaming and they're trying to get every stream dollar. He's not going to deliveries. He's not going to see his kids. He's keeping that camera rolling. He's getting all his money. I am torn on that. So while it is good to be, available when you have a child being born, it's good to see your kids. It's, really good to spend time with them regularly. But, my father told me something that has stuck with me. So I guess it must be something good, right? He said, you make hay when the sun is shining. What does that mean? That means you get it while the getting is good. One time I didn't do that, and I regret that. But that was what he told me. He said, you make hay when the sun is shining. So what that means for Blueface is that they are at the top of the food chain as far as he and Chrisean streaming right now. They can't argue enough. They can't fight enough. There can't be enough drama to satisfy the hunger of their audience. They love it. The world loves them. They love their arguing. They love their fighting. They love their mess. It's highly profitable. Many of us have had messy relationships that were not that. And maybe for good reason. Maybe it's good that most relationships are not profitable to stay in like that. How do you get out? How do you ever get out of something like that? If you're in a horrible, toxic relationship, but everyone loves to see you in it. Maybe that's a horrible, horrible situation to be in. Horrible. I mean, I can't think of anything that would keep me in a horrible relationship longer than the fact that it is highly profitable. You are in a toxic, disrespectful, volatile, highly volatile. You never know when it's going to kick off in your relationship. In America, the world has spoken and they love to see you in it. Woo! I'm glad I don't have those decisions to make. But but I've been, full disclosure, I've been watching this kind of chaos, for a little while now, just for research mostly. So I want to be up on what I'm talking about. So I've been watching them, and I've said it all week, is that the chaos is the product, and the arguing and fighting, that's a product too. And the kid asked if his father is in jail because he hasn't seen him in a month. That kid isn't part of the content, he's just a kid, and everyone of us watching is why the camera stay on. So, I think that he is, like I said, prioritizing the monetary side of his toxic relationship for, all the wrong reasons. All the reasons that they shouldn't be together. They have more incentive. The world has incentivized him to figure out a way to deal with it, because at this point, he'll likely take a pay cut if he leaves. How about that? So, he probably can't do a whole lot of family time until things slow down, which I completely get that. I get it. But he can still make a phone call. You can still call the kid, cut the camera off for a minute, or do whatever you got to do. Call a little man and say something, Anyway, Blueface or the audience, who's more responsible? I don't know. It's a mix. It's a mix for me. What do y'all think, chat? I think it's a mix. Who's actually responsible? He's responsible for his behavior. He's a grown man. He's responsible for his behavior. That is on. However, we're responsible, those of us who watch, we're responsible for keeping keeping this nonsense alive. You know, everybody watched, and if it was irrelevant, and instead of making money, maybe you losing money, you losing opportunity, you losing your focus, and all these things there are to lose when you are not focused on making your money or being productive or being constructive or something positive. You know, being a positive influence. Maybe you can't be a positive influence on the kids because you pissed off all day. I mean, is that possible? I think so. In a bad relationship, you know, it makes everything more difficult. But you know, when that bad relationship is keeping the lights on, that bad relationship is, you know, paying for private school. That bad relationship is keeping food on the table. You know, what do you do then? Anyway, where's the line between covering someone's life and being part of the reason it looks like this? You know, I don't have a clean answer for that. I'm asking honestly. You know, anyway, think about that. We got until Monday. So let's see. So 2 trials, 30 years apart, different cities, different generations, and underneath both of them is the same thing. Somebody lost somebody they loved in 96. It was a nephew jumped in the casino in 2020. It was a best friend that was unalived in a nightclub in Atlanta. And in both cases, the grief didn't get processed. It got aimed. You know. So that's the story of this genre's worst days. Not evil, not even really money. It's men who lost somebody, had nowhere on earth to put it. So they put it in a car and drove it somewhere. Orlando Anderson was only 23 when he passed away. And Lil Pab wasn't even the target. Somebody's cousin was in the wrong seat. Retaliation never brings that person back. It just adds a name, you know? So I asked once then, let it go. Let's see. So I asked once, then we'll let it go. The thing I hear most from men in coaching work that I do is I don't know where to put it. You know, I'm not comparing your Tuesday to a unaliving trial, but you know, at the same time, the same sentences underneath both. You know, if you are carrying something and it starts to point outward at your partner and your kids and somebody who didn't even do anything, that, you know, that's the moment to talk to somebody. You know, me. Talk to me, a therapist, a pastor, you know, your boy, anybody. Well, you know, if you can't get a hold of a professional, talk to anybody. You know, hopefully anybody can steer you in the right direction. But ideally, if you have access to reach out to a professional, it's better to talk to a professional in that situation. But anyway, but it's good to ask it then, you know. But anyway, men in the chat, where do you point it? Not do you feel it? Where do you point it? And it is that revenge, that get back, that retaliation. You know, when something happens, how do you handle it? How do you deal with it? What do you do with it? You let it slide, you give it to God, you go lift weights, you get on the heavy bag. How do you handle it? You got a hobby, you paint, you draw, you sing, you dance. You know, it's a lot of different ways to deal with the stress. You know, that's just a different form of stress. That's stressful. You know, losing someone or experiencing a hardship, or that's life. In short, that's life. You know, that's, we have ups, we have downs. That's the down. That's the downside. You know, and how we deal with that downside makes us who we are. Would anyone agree? So, that's my time. That's my time. You know, I think we're wrapping up a little early today, but I think it's okay. I think we made a lot of progress. We got through, I think, everything we're supposed to get through. Had a couple more questions that I was going to ask, but you know, we can just kind of save some of this for next week. It's all good. Any questions for me? I'm always asking. Nobody asks anything. So, but if you ever do, it's all good. That's what I'm here for. But anyway, this Keffe D case is kind of winding down. You know, I don't think they really have much further to go in that regard. I mean, I don't think we really know much more information than we already did from the beginning. I mean, this whole Diddy thing, that's been speculated for, you know, for a while, about this payment that was supposed to be made that was never made. And this connection that may be, but it's still, that would still need to be proven. So what's to be made of that? I don't know. Is it likely Puffy has something? Could, you know, it's possible. Who knows? Who knows? 30 years later, who knows? I mean, best bet to find that out was, you know, right after you could find out who knows what and who knew what. Now we're going to find that out. Good luck. Anyway, that's my time. So we will touch bases on this on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please like, please share, please subscribe. And what else? Until next time. This is the Clout Report presenting the Regroup. Peace. Everybody have a great weekend. Get some rest, relax, have fun, see the kids, see the spouses, see the significant others. Enjoy life. Until next time.